I'm glad, Todd, I'm glad you introduced these guys. I wasn't sure to start with young or old. I wasn't sure, so I'm glad Todd introduced you. Well, first of all, what a treat it is to be on the stage with two guys who are what Cardinal baseball has been all about. And let's start off the questioning. Tony Larussa, when did you know it was time for you to walk away? And Mike Matheny, when did you know it was time for you to walk in?
Well, Mike left me a note on my desk. He says, give it up. I think, June, July, I figured it's going to end sometime, and we were playing pretty good. I said, don't just keep it private, and if we got to feel the same way with a month to go, make sure that Bill and Mo had enough time to plan it. And, we had started a little better there towards the end of August, and then we just wanted to make sure we didn't distract the team, so we didn't say anything, and we ended up like a fairy tale, actually, and win the whole thing.
Mike, when did you decide that this is something you wanted to do? And I'll tell you, folks, I always felt that this was going to happen. There was a time in Pittsburgh when you were on a road trip, and we were all walking back from the ballpark. There was a group of us, and you guys got further and further behind the group. And it was one of those private moments where you felt like they're talking about something really serious, and it's not about the lineup tomorrow. It was talking about maybe your future as far as being involved in baseball further. How long have you guys been talking about just the whole planning stage of, as far as what you wanted to do, Mike, being in baseball? First thing with managers, you got to turn these things on, man. One of the first groups.
Well, professional, but I had it turned on already.
Oh, okay. Apparently he's learned from the guy already.
I've been very fortunate in the fact that Tony has been talking to me about this for quite a few years, and it was just trying to figure out, one, the opportunity when you realize you have a Hall of Fame manager in place doing a lot of things right. Probably not a lot of opportunity, but as time moved on and the opportunities to spend more time with Tony talking about managing and talking about just kind of how he's going about his business and some of the demands and some of the things that he thought that I might need to know, and then being able to spend time with a lot of the others that have been able to do this as well, like Red Shaney's. There was no question that it was something that I was interested in. It was just whether or not the timing would work out where I could make it real.
One of the things about being a manager, and Tony, you've done it for so many years, is being able to not only manage players, but manage family. What advice would you give Mike Matheny as a manager on how to make sure there's some sort of reasonable balance? Because there's a lot of time you're by yourself, and somebody at home is taking care of your family.
Well, that's does this work? That's a really good question because, I made that mistake way too often, so I can give Mike some advice. You have a tendency to go to the park too early and you stay too late. That's the first problem. You can only work so hard. And there's a fair time to get your work done. You don't have to get there earlier than that. You don't have to stay longer than that. The other thing that's really important is that when you're home, you're home. Don't be taking calls. Don't be playing with your lineup. And I made all those mistakes early on. Unfortunately, my wife and daughters have forgiven me, but I wish I had been smarter. And I definitely know how committed and conscientious Mike is. It's a big job, and he's got a lot ahead of him. And he would have a tendency, I think, to make those same mistakes. It's just do the right amount of work. Don't overwork it. And when you get home, it's all about family.
Mike, you had a chance to do some things once your career was over. Coaching, instruction, broadcasting. I tried to do as much as I could for you, and obviously you had to do something else. But what made being the manager, because there were a lot of things you could have done leading up to that, what was the final decision on you saying, I want to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals?
Besides the fact that it's the greatest job on the planet, way to compare it. When you're given this opportunity and you're asked by the organization, and really I've made it known for the last several years to Mo and to the organization itself that, hey, if there's somewhere where I fit, that I can do something that not anybody else can do, or you see a role that I can jump into and it makes sense, let me know, because I'm a Cardinal. I want to be a part of this, but I'm going to wait until it makes sense, and not just to be a body and be around. So Tony was gracious enough to always have me around to help out with the catchers and work with some of the pitchers, and then to move that role a little bit into helping more with Mo. But when you get a call and you're invited to come to an interview to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, I think you would have to be literally out of your mind not to get excited and jump all over that opportunity.
So when you got the call, what was the first thing you did other than go, woo-hoo?
Well, after that, actually it was about 11 o'clock at night. I was on ESPN handing out the Gold Glove to Yachty, actually. And I was told I had about 36 hours to get myself together to prepare for this. And for most of you out there, I think you need to understand that as a baseball player, you don't go through an interview very often in your life. Your interview's out on the dirt and how you swing it and how you throw it. So there was a lot of work. So it was a couple nights of pulling all-nighters. I remember those from college and remembered how to do that, but I had a lot of work to do to prepare for an interview. And fortunately, I had some good friends who kind of walked me through that process. But the first call I made was actually to the skipper here. And fortunately, I was able to catch him the next morning when I got home. I caught him down. He was cleaning up an office that really was a disaster at that particular point. A lot of 16 years of memorabilia. But had an opportunity to talk to him and one, kind of get his blessing on the idea, and two, ask for some wisdom, and obviously that paid off.
Tony, you've obviously managed for a number of years. What's been the biggest change you see from when you first started as a manager to where you're at now, and the advice you would give someone breaking in as a manager? And Mike, for you, a similar question. As a player, the relationship between player and manager, how much has that changed from when you started to where you're at now?
I think the biggest difference, and it actually started right when I started managing, because early on, it was the beginning years of players being able to sign multi-year contracts with guaranteed money. And that, I don't know, I mean, everybody raise their hand and it's got $1 million guaranteed for the next 4 or 5 years. It's just congratulations. I bet you slept late this morning, you're not worried about it. But that's just not the way real life is. You got to work hard every day and you worry about tomorrow. So it messes with guys' minds. And then, and not a happy coincidence, but I got the job August of '79. ESPN started in September of '79. And media all of a sudden became bigger and bigger and bigger. And so what happens is that the whole time I managed, there's been a lot of distractions from players other than just coming to the park and being a good pro and trying to help his team win. So fortunately, the guys that I was around that taught me, my mentors, they really, I'm thinking back now, I was so fortunate. They kept telling me, you got to personalize your style of coaching. You just can't stand up there and keep an arm's length from the players and just think you're going to give them some great knowledge and that's it. So our whole staff, for 30 years, I've been blessed. Our whole staff takes a very personal approach. We care about the players, and you work every day to pay attention to where they are. And sometimes you pat them, sometimes you got to pop them. But it's, I think, if somebody I've been asked is, to me, the survival over the years, besides being an outstanding organization, has been that approach of just personalizing your leadership and the staff's involvement with players. Just don't keep a distance, man. Just show them that you're there for them and be honest and earn their respect.
Mike, for you, you play for a number of managers. What's been the biggest change you've seen in manager-player relationship, and maybe something you're going to be able to take into the clubhouse now as a manager?
Well, I don't think it was as much of a time span difference as it was a personality difference. You know, every manager has his own philosophy, and not everybody has had the ability to personalize like Tony has, and that's something that I believe I do naturally, and that I'll have to continue to do is to go on the personal level. But there have certainly been a lot of changes, and I think they've changed the game, and I think one is just how difficult it is for these guys with social media, for instant access to them and instant access to whatever they're doing in their life. It certainly puts up some barriers around the players, and it certainly puts a high level of accountability to every decision they make. So that is a whole nother door that's kind of been opened up here in the recent history that has changed how guys go about their business. But as far as the manager's perspective, I do believe that it has to do exactly what Tony says, is follow your instincts and treat people like people, and hopefully be able to invest in them as people, not just as players, and you know that investment will come back on how they perform on the field.
You mentioned social media. I'm going to take a wild guess and say neither one of you guys tweets. You have a Twitter account?
Our tweets.
Our tweets.
What is it? Is tweet something like
close? What about you? Are you a Twitter guy?
I haven't ventured into that yet.
Okay, do yourself a favor. Stay where you are. You know, the system, you mentioned, you used the term system a little bit ago, Tony, and a lot of things change where you don't have the same collection of players on an annual basis. You're now out of the game as a manager. What would be something you'd like to see done differently to create more continuity, to be able to maintain a ball club for a while, where free agency doesn't come into play, where good players leave maybe because, and everyone wants to make money obviously, but good players leave maybe for the wrong reason?
Well, I would say, why even waste time trying to answer that question? Because the system needs to change. The system is why Albert's in California with the Angels. It's not because he didn't want to play there. It's the system. You know, they have some clubs got a lot of money. We should never pour mouth. I never did while I was here. I'm sure Mike won't either. The Cardinals spent $100 million on their payroll, so we don't have anything to complain about. But the system is not fair. If some teams can print money, it's not fair at the bottom when you don't have a realistic chance to have a winning team because you can't. First of all, you can't put together enough talented guys, or if you have a young guy, there's Carlos Beltran. You know, he was with the Kansas City A's. Kansas City Royals.
Somebody's dating themselves now.
He used to be the Kansas City Royals. They couldn't afford him. They traded him to Houston at the last minute. He did great. Signed a free agent contract. So the answer is change the system, but you might as well waste your time because that's not going to change.
For both you guys, you guys have been in the game for a long time. Well, what's the most important element, aside from winning, that a player and manager have to be able to maintain?
What's the most important element?
Yeah, aside from trying to win ball games.
Well, winning ball games. I think it's maximizing the guys individually, and that's really a lot of the wisdom that I've gathered from all the great managers and coaches that I've talked to is not try to make somebody do something that they can't, and be able to capitalize on what they do bring to the table, and try to focus on keeping them focused on the idea that it's not about me as much as it's about we. And you know, in this game, unfortunately, doesn't cultivate that because it's so statistic driven that a lot of times you fall into a trap. I mean, these guys are constantly fighting agents. They're constantly fighting people that are pushing everything about them and their stats instead of what we're trying to do collectively. And every once in a while, you come across a chemistry in a team like the 2011 team where there were guys that didn't buy into that. They bought into the bigger picture. They bought into playing the game right. They bought into this thing that we around here call the Cardinal Way, which is striving and the pursuit of excellence all the time. And when you go about that, good things happen. They'll happen personally, but when you focus on the personal, a lot of times the collective win doesn't happen.